Hello Guardians, I am JS and welcome to my channel for another YouTube video. Today I'm going to talk to you about the things that are plaguing the Crucible like the coronavirus. That's right, there is a pandemic in Destiny 2 Crucible and players are staying away from it. The player population is on a decline and matchmaking queues are longer than usual. Before we get started, I just want you to know this is my version and it's based on my opinion and observation in Destiny 2. I have been playing this game for 6 years and I do care so much that we need to speak about it. So grab yourself a favorite drink and make sure to watch the video all the way to the end to see all the topics that I'm covering today. Let's start with tokens. Destiny rewards you with tokens when you play the game, and I have thousands of tokens for Gunsmith, Lord Shaxx, Zavala and Lord Saladin. And I don't even play this game full time, but I have accumulated these over the course of 6 years. The problem is that I have no need to spend the tokens because my vault is full of every weapon from the loot pool, and I also have god rolls, if not near perfect rolls for each weapon. Previously, I used to spend tokens to help boost my character level to the soft cap, and that was a good reason to use tokens. However, Bungie changed that and these tokens are yielding rewards that are 20 light level below and is completely useless to me. There is also no reason to spend tokens trying to obtain a god roll because of sunsetting, which we will talk about later on in this video. I think the game is desperately in need of more vendors who sell unique weapons, armor, shader, emblems and ships. Basically, we need more content to chase and not just by the number of gear available to us, but rather the quality of the gear that we acquire to respect our time and efforts that we put into the game. If we take this route, it will allow us to trade the currency in-game such as tokens for something more substantial like Crucible specific weapons with random rolls or even semi-curated rolls. In Destiny 1, there was a Crucible Quartermaster who would sell Crucible weapons that you can acquire and go after, and their inventory would also refresh every season. That's where guns like the Hawksaw back in Destiny 1 was totally worth chasing. Currently in Destiny 2, however, Lord Shaxx and Zavala are offering armor that looks exactly identical but with a different paint job, and the Drifter is in the same boat as well. The weapons that we obtain from Lord Shaxx and Zavala are stale and have been around for a while, and the loot pool desperately needs new items that are worth of going after. In Destiny 1, we had factions. We had Dead Orbit, New Monarchy and Future War Cult. They all had their own and unique faction themed armor, weapons, shaders, emblems and even ships. You had to simply pledge the faction of your choice and you were able to acquire faction gear by leveling up. Do you guys remember Hung Jury, scout rifle from Dead Orbit? That was such a good scout rifle for a raid, and I really liked the Firefly perk on it back in Destiny 1. Each faction had their own unique themed of gear in their arsenal and they were totally worth it. I like the shaders from Dead Orbit, I love the armor from Future War Cult, and I like the weapons and emblems from New Monarchy. I still remember how much joy I had in making a hunter with all the armor from the Future War Cult because I simply liked the look of it, and every week I would pledge to a different faction to obtain something new from them. This kept me so interested in leveling up with the factions for the loot. I remember back then we had heavy ammo synthesis, which can be donated in return for faction packages. I admired the way the weapons served their purposes in both PvP and PvE playlists, and they all had their right places in the game respectively. This made for good endgame content in Destiny 1 and was worth every bit of my time. I would urge Bungie to bring back factions in Destiny 2, and we can trade in some of our currency like Gunsmith materials and Vanguard and Crucible tokens to level up and get rewarded from faction packages just like we did in Destiny 1. I have no idea how we moved away from factions, but we still have the faction leaders in tower doing absolutely nothing, and that makes me sad because it's a missed opportunity to make the game a little better. I sometimes go chill out with the faction leaders and have a coffee for old time's sake. It's a shame we couldn't even bake cookies and deliver it to these faction leaders in return for faction packages during the Dawning event, which too hasn't changed at all but brought back some recycled guns. Destiny 2 has so much potential and I hate to see it wasted. I hope Bungie can do something about it and bring back factions exactly how they were in Destiny 1. This will make a lot of players happy to return, I'm pretty sure of that. Let's talk about playlists. Unless you are a new player to Destiny or someone who is leveling up to 1250 light, there is no actual reason to play Crucible right now. Crucible is dying, if not dead already. The matchmaking is off balance, where you either mercy a team or get mercied. Very few games seem to be balanced these days, and this is not a good experience for both new and old players inside Crucible. Yeah, sure, there is a pinnacle drop in Crucible playlists per week, but the pinnacle drops are disappointing for me personally because they seem to be dropping at my current light level for all my armor and weapons, but not higher. When you do hit the hard cap, there is no point in doing pinnacle rewards either. Let's talk about pinnacle and ritual weapon rewards in the Crucible playlist, which is non-existent. Bungie removed pinnacles and ritual rewards, giving us no reason to play competitive playlists in Beyond Light expansion, and it's a massive blow to endgame content and the playlist on a whole. Players are struggling to find a reason to play competitive because of lack of rewards, and there is no incentive for the player. In competitive playlists, the player population is on a decline. The matches are more sweatier than ever before, and of course the rise of cheaters once again in Destiny 2 PvP mode is ruining the integrity of the game, so there is no point to play it. The only game mode I currently play is Trials of Osiris. I used to love the game mode back in Destiny 1 because the adept weapons were so good and curated, meaning you're guaranteed to get a good roll. But in Destiny 2, the adept weapons are random rolls and come with adept mods that give you a penalty to a specific stat on your weapon. Trials of Osiris is already infested with many account recoveries, sweaty players, and there is a rise in the number of cheaters once again. So it's not so much fun, but rather lots of frustration that eventually leads to a massive dissatisfaction. Nobody deserves to be annihilated by cheaters or be rewarded with rubbish loot when going flawless to the lighthouse, only to open the chest and then get some random roll adept weapon which is completely useless in the Crucible due to unpopular perks on the weapon when compared to other god roll meta weapons. Don't even get me started on stasis inside Trials because I will be speaking of stasis in another video. So the combination of disappointing loot, cheaters, account recoveries, and declining player population is making Trials of Osiris one of the most unfun activities to play. These reasons are why the normal or average player wouldn't even bother to play for wins or chase bounties. We desperately need the casual PvP player base to contribute to a better Trials of Osiris experience, and it's absolutely crucial. At the time of recording this video, there were only 2100 players in the Trials of Osiris playlist on PC, and that meant we played so many teams for 2 or even 3 times on a single card. I hope in the future we can make Trials a better playlist that can entice everyone to take part in. Cheaters are on the rise again in Destiny 2. I don't know much about cheating and how they bypass the anti-cheat system in-game, but do we even have an anti-cheat system in-game? Is it working? Let me know in the comments below. See, I understand that Bungie has to be profitable as a business and allow for new light players to experience the PvP game mode, but there needs to be a restriction where a new light player should not be able to enter a competitive or trials playlist to save the integrity of the game, just in case the player decides to cheat in those game modes. Okay, fair on Bungie's part that they are doing something by going after perfect aim, and they recently teamed up with Riot to tackle gator cheats and other cheat makers. However, as the saying goes, when one door closes, another will open, and I think cheating will always be a problem we would have to deal with unless there is a solid anti-cheat system that works and is frequently updated. We need instant bans and suspensions to cheaters and network manipulators, and if this happens, then we would see less cheaters in Crucible. I miss the good old days when Destiny 2 was on Battle.net, where I never had a single cheater in my Crucible game. I also wish Destiny 2 wasn't free to play and still on Battle.net, as it would make for the best Destiny 2 experience in my opinion. I understand sunsetting, and whilst I agree with why this is necessary, at the same time it's unfair to the Destiny player base that more weapons are sunsetted versus the number of new weapons that are available. I am not simply asking for the high number of obtainable weapons, but I'm asking for equivalent number of weapons that we can obtain to take the place of our sunsetted weapons. For example, the Mindbender shotgun was an energy shotgun from the Forsaken expansion, which is now sunsetted, but its only replacement as another aggressive frame is the Fellwinter's Lie, which is not currently obtainable. So this means if you don't have the Fellwinter's Lie, like myself, because I didn't play Destiny the season Fellwinter's Lie came out, then you're pretty much left with a void which you cannot fill. So my only option is to play with an Astral Horizon, but that is in the primary slot and I don't have a 120 RPM hand cannon in my secondary slot to pair it with. So I'm left missing the Mindbenders because I don't have a Fellwinter's Lie, and my only replacement is a Seraph CQC shotgun, which is nowhere as good as a Fellwinter's Lie. Did you know the Fellwinter's Lie is most used weapon across all the playlists in the Crucible, including Trials of Osiris? So the point I'm trying to make is, if Bungie is sunsetting weapons, then they need to come up with a new list of equivalent weapons that we can obtain to essentially replace our old weapons. And this will also help to balance out the meta, and people will have more variety of weapons to use in game. Quality of the weapons available is also the key here as well. The next major issue with sunsetting is that there is no real reason to chase a god roll weapon or armor because it will be sunsetted in the future. So the time spent obtaining a god roll versus the time you acquire the weapon and use it would seem almost pointless chasing the said god roll weapons. At this stage, you may as well play the game casually, as more time invested in the game isn't future-proofing anymore. Let's talk about maps. The PvP maps in the Crucible are like ancient history. Most of them are the same maps from Destiny 1, but with a fresh coat of paint. We haven't had new maps for a good amount of time. Is it 2 or 3 years now? And it's fair to say that new maps are very much needed. This will help in some way for Crucible to feel refreshing, as players will have no knowledge about the new maps in the beginning and will even shake up the weapon meta depending on how big the map is. Currently, we don't have many large maps in Destiny, with the exception of a small number that favors ranged weapons such as scout rifles. Scout rifles are underused on PC because we have 120 RPM sniper cannons with insane range and damage. Why would you use a scout rifle on a small map when you can use a 3-tapping sniper cannon? Currently, most of the maps on Destiny are small and it favors shotgun aiming and the use of hand cannons for their overall performance. Recently, Bungie moved some of my favorite maps to the Destiny content vault, and I wasn't happy to see there weren't any new replacement for them either. I used to love the large maps like Equinox because it meant that we were able to use different weapons and loadouts to try new ideas and be more creative. I do get bored of using the same weapons over and over in matches after matches. However, if I want to play in a competitive playlist, then I would use the best of the best in my arsenal to ensure I'm not being a liability to my team, or that I'm not putting myself and my team at a disadvantage. Having said that, I do think the primary weapon balancing is at its best in Destiny 2 right now, and we can do with a few tweaks that would make it near perfect, if not perfect. Let's talk about weapon balancing. Weapon balancing is in a good spot for the most part, with a lack of a few weapons like SMGs, scout rifles, fusion rifles and sidearms that are still struggling to stay in the top most used weapons list on PC. These weapons need to be evaluated and tweaked to perform better in their territory, with the ability to give shotguns, snipers and hand cannons a counter. If these weapons take their rightful place in the Crucible, it would mean that going forward, players are going to have to be more careful to secure a kill rather than simply shotgun ape on small maps or snipe on a big map. Primary weapons are all in a good place and feel balanced except for the 120 RPM hand cannon, which are dominating the Crucible right now on PC. They have insane range and damage, so they may need tuning down a tiny bit. So it would be nice to see other weapons have a fighting chance too, and it would be brilliant to have that perfect sandbox. However, in casual Crucible, I like the fact that I can run around with almost any weapon equipped, but in top tier competitive playlists like Trials of Osiris, for example, it feels like the 120s are the best option, hands down, depending on the map. So I think I have put some of my concerns on the table and addressed them to the best of my ability as a Destiny 2 player on PC, but it's up to Bungie to make some much needed changes to the Crucible. One may even argue and say that if you don't like a game, move on to another. However, I have invested 6 years in this game and I genuinely feel there is so much potential in Destiny to be a top game, but due to poor management and execution from Bungie, it's failing to be at the peak of that mountain. What I am really concerned about is the silence from Bungie, not addressing these issues and not keeping the community informed of their plans for the Crucible is worrying and concerning. One cannot help but to think, is it time to move on from Destiny? Or is Bungie going to promise us some changes, and when we're going to see these changes come into effect? Some of the top YouTubers like Hush have already quit Destiny 2 after covering it for 6 years. It's called franchise fatigue. Do you even blame them for quitting though? Well, if you've made it this far in the video, I want to thank you very much for listening to me. I hope you can share this video with your friends and your community, and let's help get the word out there. I have put a lot of effort into making this video, and so I would appreciate if you can like and subscribe to this video and hit the notification bell, as that is the best way you can support me and my channel. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram. I also stream on Twitch, so be sure to follow me there too. We also have a Discord server where we help people and play together to improve in the Crucible. I will leave all of these links down in the description below, so be sure to check the description and click on them to take you to its respective places. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts about the Crucible are. What do you like and dislike about the Crucible? Are you having fun right now? What would you like to see change? Well, that's it from me. Stay safe and take good care. I will see you guys in the next one.